Hey guys, thanks again for tuning in. Sorry for the long break between videos. I actually got sick right after the holidays and I was visiting my wife's family in France. So, apologies, took me a while to get back and get my voice back. So, it's good to be back. Hope everyone had a good Christmas and a happy holidays, good New Year. And, some big news obviously with Soleimani getting killed or at least assassinated by Trump going into this new year. I had actually been tweeting about what had been going on in Iraq with basically how the Shiite militia groups had been attacking the United States. It was actually the first time that we actually attacked the Popular Mobilization forces ever for the first time. So this is quite a big deal, and I was actually tweeting about how this was a big deal and how basically right at the end of December, an American was killed, and then I announced how we did one drone strike, and then we ended up killing Soleimani. So definitely some big stuff. So it's just been insane to see the response of all the new experts on how, this is a terrible thing that we've done. Iran deserves better. Trump is crazy. He's a warmonger. They just don't understand what's actually happening on the ground. How, Soleimani's been fomenting war in the region for a few decades. How he was behind the Lebanon civil war, the war with Hezbollah and the Israelis. How he'd been fomenting attacks in Yemen with the Houthis. How he'd been behind attacks in Saudi Arabia, attacks in Iraq. It's been across the board, and people act like we're always interjecting ourselves into situations as Americans, when in reality the Persians or Iranians have been doing the same thing in the Middle East for decades, ever since 1979. So, it's such a misconception that the liberals try to paint this picture that we're the only ones that are interjecting ourselves into this situation. So, even just think about what the guy had done. He had been behind Benghazi, perhaps, this new riot that happened at our embassy. We had a building that burned down. There had been over 13 attacks in the past 2 months on U.S. bases in Iraq. So I know there have been multiple ones at Kirkuk. So this was something that had been happening for a while now. I mean, let's just go through what had happened in the past year, basically, since June of 2019. So they mined the Persian Gulf. So 2 Japanese oil tankers had been sabotaged. 21 Norwegian sailors had been kidnapped by the Iranians. Let's see what else. They had the $210 million drone that was American that got shot down. They had the Saudi Arabia refinery that got attacked, and that was the Houthis, but it was certainly the Iranians who gave them the weapons and told them how to attack, where to attack, gave them the intel, things like that. And then there was obviously the American that I talked about that was killed. Then obviously the riot at the embassy. So this was a progression. This didn't just happen. Kellyanne Conway had said that Soleimani had been on their radar for about 3 years, really. I know that Pompeo actually sent him a letter in 2017 trying to say, hey, you better not attack any Americans in Iraq, basically, or else. And he ended up ripping up the letter and saying something about death to America and didn't even listen to the warning. So I was even, cracking up how he even had that. I remember Trump had that Instagram post where it was basically like Game of Thrones. And then Soleimani had another post that was Instagram basically saying, come get me. Well, there you go. You asked for it. People actually think that Trump isn't going to act. Well, no, he does. When he says things, he's going to make it happen, unlike Obama. When there's a red line in the sand, and if you cross it, he's going to do something about it. So, back just to what's been going on. I mean, I know that there had been around 31 rockets in one night that were just getting launched at this base in Kirkuk. So they know that this wasn't just a warning shot. That's designed to inflict damage and kill people. So they know that behind the attack, it had to be or at least the Iranians supporting these Shiite militia groups. So when you think about the popular mobilization forces, it basically was created in 2014. It was a jihad against ISIS. So they were, needing the attack or needing the people to support it with the Iraqi actual army. So you have these Shia groups that are inherently within this militia force. I know there's over like 40 of them. And of these ones, they're going to be supported by Iran. And Iran's been supporting groups like this across the Middle East for years, like I said. And this has been long coming. After the attack, Democrats are saying that it's made the situation worse. What's going to really change? They're already attacking us. They have no other means to really attack our soil. They don't have ICBM missiles, so intercontinental ballistic missiles that can reach us. Even if they did, we have a THAAD missile defense system that can shoot around 90% of those down. So what are they going to really do that they're not already doing? They can try to use their choke points on the Strait of Hormuz to basically adjust the world markets. But if they do that, guess who gets their oil from there too? China. So what are they going to do? Just mine and create more water-based mines? They're going to hurt China. China's going to get mad. If Trump was really a Russian agent, Soleimani actually went to Moscow once and had meetings with Putin. So if in Iran's an ally to Russia, why would he want to kill the second in command to their ally? It just makes no sense. And yet they're going to keep saying, oh, yeah, Trump, he's a Russian asset. So that makes zero sense considering the exposure that he put out there. So it's pretty simple. Trump does have a contingency plan. It's, why do we have these endless ground wars when we can just substitute it with finite economic wars and, precise drone strikes? If you want to actually go at us, we're just going to mitigate our risk and our troop exposure. If you mess with the U.S., you'll receive the brunt of sanctions and find yourself coerced by drones and dollars, not what it used to be under the Bush admin or previous wars where it's a huge ground force that's going into your country. Then we have to create a new system, new government. We're not there to do regime change anymore. That's what Trump said. He's not here to, overthrow Khomeini. And Khomeini actually said, I want to find his quote. He said, "The loss of our dear general is bitter. The continuing fight and ultimate victory will be more bitter for the murderers and criminals." So meaning the continuing fight you've been doing and waging war on us for decades, really. And let's think about what they did in the past. I mean, they had once in 1979 happened. They took all the stuff that was the Shah's, Pahlavi's. So they took his bank accounts. They took all the investments that he had. So imagine if, your grandpa died and he had a trust or like a stock portfolio. And by some weird reason, the person that killed him in the car accident was like, oh, that's my stocks now, even though it was my fault that he's dead. That's basically what they're saying. And the French had this uranium company or this nuclear power company called Eurodif. And the Shah helped create a new power plant for them and invested a shit ton of money into their company. And he expected 10% of the profits, throughout the creation or throughout the history of their company afterwards. So once the revolution happened, Jimmy Carter put on a bunch of sanctions onto Iran. So he basically said no diplomats in the United States, no immigration, put a bunch of export sanctions and bank sanctions on them too. So the French were like, okay, we're not going to give them this 10% profit anymore because they basically stole the company from the Shah. So what did the Iranians do? They kidnapped They made French hostages in Beirut at their embassy. Sounds familiar. That's what they did in 1979 to us. And then they assassinated the CEO of the company, George Best, in France. So it's not like they're used to or not used to people getting assassinated. That's what they've been doing. They're bullies. So that's how you got to beat a bully. You got to carry a big stick, and you have to show them that we're not afraid. And that's what Obama was afraid of doing. They unfroze their assets, which, by the way, wasn't their assets to begin with, too. Again, back to my metaphor with the stock portfolio. That was the Shah's money that they unfroze. It was a U.S. Treasury estimate of $120 billion that Obama and Kerry just unfroze and gave them. Where do you think they invested that money? In the Quds. And they started exporting all these weapons to their Shia forces in the Middle East. That's what they won't tell you, too. The Middle East and the Arabs hate the Iranians. They hate the Persians. They don't like them meddling in their business no more than they like us meddling in their business. And they act like we're the people like Kaepernick, for example, act like us bombing brown people, that it's only happening from our end. It's complete, utter nonsense. It's happening from the Iranian perspective, too. There's just so much that angers me about this. Like, they're going to try to, reduce the commander-in-chief's ability to wage war by changing the Constitution. That's what Pelosi's move is right now. Are you serious? You didn't care about that when Obama was doing that? When Obama overthrew Gaddafi, or when he drone striked? Or no. He launched an actual strike force within Pakistan. So just another country didn't ask any directive from Pakistan's government. He just went in, which I applaud him in doing. They were told him he had a 50-50 chance of actually having a successful mission by killing Osama bin Laden. They weren't even sure he was there. They had a hunch, and he took it, and he made the right decision. Same applies here. There was a great piece by Joe Lieberman in the in the Wall Street Journal today, and he was making this comparison to this Republican congressman that dealt a lot with Truman. Basically, politics need to end at the shore when it comes to foreign policy. We're all Americans here. We all care about the red, white, and blue. That's what I would hope to assume. But it seems day in and day out that the Democrats don't care. They would rather put their hatred of Trump before actually acting on foreign policy. It's insane. So, that's the end of my video, guys. I really hope you appreciate it, and I'll catch you on the next one.